And that was the video message on COVID-19 for meeting participants at this meeting venue, the UNCC. And before we officially begin, two more housekeeping announcements. The remote simultaneous interpretation of the proceedings is provided by the United Nations for the purpose of facilitating communication in light of the fact that there are 6 official languages of the United Nations. Participants are requested to be mindful of the additional difficulties experienced by interpreters when working in remote mode and of the increased likelihood of disruptions to the audio feed to the interpreters. Now, only the speech or intervention in the original language is authentic and constitutes an authentic record of the proceedings. Now, in case of any inconsistency between the interpretation and the speech, prevail. Secondly, interpreters servicing remote meetings cannot be held liable for interruption of service, pixelation, freezing, or loss of visual input, partial or complete loss of audio, audible artifacts, unauthorized access to personal or confidential data, leaking of information due to inadequate soundproofing and or data loss. And those were... Sawadee ka. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, joining us here at ESCAP Hall in Bangkok, Thailand. And I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, guests joining us for this significant gathering virtually as well. A warm welcome to this regional conversation on air pollution in the Asia Pacific, commemorating the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. My name is Pachori. Now, it is indeed very timely that we gather here today to discuss air pollution, which is one of the biggest environmental threats to our health. Air pollutants contribute directly to the climate crisis, further endangering the livelihoods of current and future generations. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exposed the fragility of our societies, highlighting the urgency to improve air quality. We officially commence this regional conversation on air pollution with a welcoming message to be delivered by His Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, former Secretary General of the United Nations and Chairman of the National Council on Climate and Air Quality of Korea. He joins us live from Seoul. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ban Ki-moon.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Honorable Executive Secretary of UN ESCAP, Armida Salsia Ali-Shabana, Honorable Assistant Secretary General of UNEP, Satya Tripathi, and Excellency Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Thailand, Wook-heon, distinguished guests us online, good afternoon. Today, we gathered here on this meaningful day to commemorate the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. I'm deeply pleased to hear that global cities around the world, Bangkok, New York, Nairobi, which host UN headquarters and UN institutions, are participating in this meaningful campaign in celebration of this UN-designated day to achieve cleaner air and blue skies. For your information, I had the honor of participating and presiding over the same ceremony yesterday at Korea time, September 7th. Korean president also issued very important messages on the occasion of this day. Since September last year, when President Moon Jae-in of Korea proposed at the Climate Action Summit of the General Assembly to designate and proposed to designate an international day, it took less than 3 months to adopt this resolution, which demonstrates exceptionally high interest and desire of the international community to return clean air and blue skies to all the people around the world. In particular, UNESCAP and UNEP have greatly contributed to adopting the resolution of this International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. In May 2019, UNESCAP adopted the resolution on, I quote, strengthening regional cooperation to tackle air pollution challenges in Asia and Pacific. This resolution successfully paved the way for the momentum for transnational cooperation in mitigating air pollution and climate change, which led to the unanimous adoption of recognizing this day. As for UNEP, it not only supported the overall process of passing the UN resolution, but also facilitated the very observance of this day. Thanks to these efforts, we are here today celebrating the first International Day of Clean Air for the blue skies together. However, it is no time to be complacent. We must use this momentum as a springboard for joint efforts in air pollution and climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, the coronavirus has shocked the world with unprecedented scale and intensity and severity. Completely left many lessons for us all, highlighting not only the need for international cooperation based on multilateralism, especially in terms of public health, but also the importance of concerted efforts in response to air pollution and climate change. Last April, His Holiness Pope Francis stated that the pandemic may be one of nature's responses to the man-made climate crisis. Indeed, COVID-19 is the devastating consequences of environmental pollution. The man-made ecological crisis is not only threatening humankind's health, but also shaking up the landscape of global public health. In this light, it is high time that we unite with nature. Let us pool our energy to solve this challenge of a lifetime. Let us work together to make the earth a better place to live in. And let us pass on sustainable earth to our future generation. Even so, there is a silver lining. Amidst the tumultuous times of this pandemic, it is ironic that we are seeing clearer and bluer skies more often since last spring, when we were forced to put a halt to almost all the activities to slow the viral spread. This means if we join hands and act in earnest with a sense of urgency, we will be able to unravel this problem. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are so close to crossing the climate tipping point. In order to close challenges in the aftermath of COVID-19, we must proceed with a green paradigm shift and the implementation of the new climate regime in 2021. The decision we make today will determine the future of humanity and the earth beyond the next decades or even a century. And this is the very reason and purpose of us gathering here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to today's today's discussions with all of you, who must rightfully protect and enjoy clean air and blue skies, shedding light on the next climate action we'll take for our better future. Thank you for your attention.
Of the United Nations, highlighting the need for international collaboration and cooperation, the need to work together to achieving clean air and blue skies. And now from the former Secretary General to the current Secretary General of the United Nations, we will now be hearing a message from His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, followed by a short explanatory video. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Antonio Guterres.
Around the world, 9 out of every 10 people breathe unclean air. Air pollution contributes to heart disease, strokes. There's an estimated 7 million premature deaths every year, predominantly in low and middle-income countries. Air pollution also threatens the economy, food security, and the environment. As we recover from the coronavirus pandemic, the world needs to pay far greater attention to air pollution, which also increases the risks associated with COVID-19. We must also urgently address the deeper threat of climate change. Limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees will help reduce air pollution, deaths, and disease. This year's lockdowns have caused emissions to fall dramatically, provided a glimpse of cleaner air in many cities. But emissions are already rising again, in some places surpassing pre-COVID levels. We need dramatic and systemic change. Reinforced environmental standards, policies and laws that prevent emissions of air pollutants are needed more than ever. Countries also need to end subsidies to fossil fuels. And at international level, countries need to cooperate to help each other transition to clean technologies. I call on governments still providing finance for fossil fuel-related projects in developing countries to shift that support towards clean energy and sustainable transport. And I urge all countries to use post-COVID recovery packages to support the transition to healthy and sustainable jobs. Today, 7 September, marks the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Let us work together to build a better future with clean air for all.
Yes, that video highlighted something very important. And that's the sheer number of people affected by air pollution. And we're going to now take a look at the special video presentation.
We're living in an era where we worry about the very air we breathe. We wear masks to protect ourselves from pandemics and from pollution. Pollution that causes climate change and pollution that devastates our health and economies, nowhere more than here in Asia and the Pacific. The 30 cities with the most polluted air in the world are in our region, with Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific experiencing the greatest air pollution-related health impacts globally. Air pollution kills millions each year and causes lasting health problems. Air pollution has a number of sources. Human activity is the origin of most of them. Here in the region, wildfires and open burning agricultural practices are two of the leading sources. Because air pollutants can travel long distances, burning can spoil the air 1,000 kilometers away. That's why while national action is vital, we need regional cooperation to effectively tackle air pollution. As emphasized by the creation of the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, we must all commit to working tirelessly to beat air pollution. We have the solutions. We know what to do. Let's take action now so we can breathe easy once again.
Once again, that video highlighting something extremely important indeed, and that's the sheer number of people affected by air pollution. And clearly this is not a challenge for just the few, but it is a challenge for everyone. We must continue to work together and we must do more now. And next, I have the honor of calling upon His Excellency Mr. Lee Wook-heon, the Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to the Kingdom of Thailand. He will be delivering his message, his remarks to us. Now, his remarks will be delivered in Korean. You services, it is channel 1 for English and 3 for Chinese. Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to the Kingdom of Thailand. Please.
Thank you.
Honorable UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, Minister of Environment of Thailand Warao Silabachi, ASCAP Executive Secretary Almida Ali Shabana, Co-Chair of UN G. Damilola Ogumbia, and UNEP Assistant Secretary General Satya Tripathi, Ambassador of Sri Lanka Samattasya Surya, and ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate you on the commemoration of the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, co-sponsored by ASCAP and UNEP. Also, I believe that because the countries that jointly proposed the UN resolution International Day of Clean Air, such as Korea, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Mongolia, have attended along with the international organizations, it will contribute to raising awareness of the need for clean air and promotion of international cooperation. I'm very honored to attend this event as ambassador of one of the countries that proposed this resolution. It is significant that the inaugural commemoration is being hosted at the ASCAP headquarters. I'm very honored to be here. ASCAP took the lead in adopting the coordinated response resolution to air pollution in the Asia-Pacific region, which became the foundation for this resolution. In this regard, today's event will set an outstanding precedent based on the recommendation of UN Resolution, International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. In May of last year, based on the realization, the spread of air pollution is becoming a serious threat to the sustainable development and public health of the Asia Public region, Korea proposed the ASCAP resolution concerning air pollution, which highlighted the need for close regional cooperation. Also at the UN Climate Action Summit in September of last year, Korean President Moon Jae-in suggested to designate a UN Day of commemoration in order to promote actions to improve air quality and increase international cooperation. After that, as a result of the joint proposal made by countries such as Korea and Thailand, international consensus was built to designate International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies on November 26, 2019. This resolution was then adopted by consensus at the UN General Assembly. I feel very proud that the global initiative to reduce air pollution was led by the AP region. I hope that ASCAP member states and international organizations in the Asia-Pacific region will play proactive leadership roles in international cooperation in establishing domestic policies. Having said that, I wish you all success in strengthening the regional cooperation to tackle air pollution challenges project in the AP, which was advanced thanks to the Korea Escape Cooperation Fund. The recent COVID-19 situation paradoxically brought clean air and blue skies to various countries. This is the moment when countries and international society have to establish strategies to sustainably achieve clean air. In Korea, due to COVID-19, we are trying hard to recover from the sluggish economy through the Green New Deal and to build an eco-friendly growth model. We plan to reduce greenhouse gas and air pollutants through low carbon emissions through growth of regional energy and the greenhouse industry ecosystem. Our goal is to create 650,000 new jobs by investing $6.1 billion within the next 5 years. We hope that Korea will be able to contribute to the transition to an eco-friendly economy in the Asia-Pacific region and achieve SDG 2030 goals by sharing our experience with the Green New Deal. Meanwhile, in order to respond to global issues such as air pollution and climate change, we are not only seeking government-level cooperation, but also cooperation among local municipalities, businesses, and industries, as well as the active participation of civil society, including that of young people and future generation. We are seeking to identify the roles various stakeholders will play with their efforts. Such participation and endeavors are based on the solidarity of the international community and will contribute to protecting the clean air and blue sky for all of us. Speak Regional Office and ISCAP officials for their hard work in preparing this worthwhile event. Thank you.
To Thailand. Now, the Republic of Korea is a strong supporter of the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, and I think we'll be seeing more of that strong and solid Korean support in this next video. And now this video is going to please very much the Red Velvet fans joining us online. So if I may direct your attention to the big screen, let's take a look.
Every second, we live by breathing and repeatedly inhale and exhale for survival. All living creatures, including our nature and the planet Earth, are all breathing. We constantly make something new and call this development. We may have made our lives convenient, but breathing became more difficult. The air is limitless in supply, but nobody knows when the world will run out of clean, breathable air.
우리가 들이마시는 숨이 위험하다는 거 아세요? 지금 지구에 사는 사람 10명 중 9명이 오염물질을 들이마시며 살고 있답니다. 매년 60만 명의 아이들은 그렇게 대기오염 때문에 죽어가고 있습니다.
집집마다 사용하는 전기며 또 거리의 자동차나 공장에서 끊임없이 탄소가스가 쏟아져 나오고 있죠. 탄소가스는 100년 넘게 공기 중에 남고 또 일부는 1000년 동안 쌓인대요.
팬데믹 앞에서 전 세계가 잠시 멈추고 말았습니다. 바꿀 수 없을 것 같던 하늘이 다른 모습을 보여주기도 했습니다.
The recent warning from nature has created new movements.
Without clean air, we won't be able to survive. The climate crisis is happening right now, so we must act right now.
I started striking because I wanted a future.
And we're making progress, step by step, to make the Earth a better place to live.
I personally believe that we all have a right to clean air, fresh water, and healthy, nutritious food.
And if we improve air quality, we can also enhance climate change mitigation. Clean air is a human right.
To fight for our right to breathe clean air. 경계를 넘어서 전 세계며
오늘의 지구가 아닌 내일의 지구를 위해 세계 곳곳에서 푸른 하늘을 위한 발걸음이 이어지고 있습니다.
우리는 되돌릴 수 있습니다.
되돌릴 수 있습니다. 우리는 되돌릴 수 있습니다.
나부터 시작하는 푸른 하늘을 위한 약속. 무엇이 있을까요?
자원 재활용은 미래를 위한 착한 소비랍니다. 안 쓰는 전기 코드는 뽑아두기. 승용차는 잠시 멈추세요.
플라스틱 비닐 대신 장바구니. Small changes in our daily lives promise the return of clean air and blue skies.
모두가 깨끗한 공기를 마시고 파란 하늘을 만나는 꿈. 하나뿐인 지구를 위해 우리는 꿈을 꿉니다. 9월 7일 푸른 하늘을 위한 국제 맑은 공기의 날 함께 시작해요.
There you go. Some alarming statistics shared there. Hope that will trigger us all to do much, much more. And that was the campaign video for the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. It's great to see such strong support, not just from the Korean government, but also from Korean influencers and artists like Red Velvet. And a big shout out to all the Red Velvet fans joining us online. I'm sure you've all been inspired and that you will be doing your part and making the changes. And thank you as well to Red Velvet and all the influencers for joining the cause. And without further ado, we will go straight into the high-level panel and interactive discussion. We do aim for a very lively discussion, and we do welcome all delegates and participants present here at our conference venue, as well as joining us online to voice your thoughts. You can leave a question or comments online as well. After our highly esteemed guest speakers deliver their comments, they will be addressing your questions. And now I have the honor of introducing the speakers. Their Excellencies, Ms. Armida Salcia Alice Jabana, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. She joins us here at the conference center. Mr. Malik Amin Aslam, the advisor to the Prime Minister on Climate Change and Federal Minister of Pakistan. Mr. Satya Tripathi, United Nations Assistant Secretary General and Head of the United Nations Environment Programme's New York office. And we also have joining us on the panel is Mr. Glenn Pierce Oroz, the Director of International Relations and Special Projects at Sustainable Energy for All. Now, this panel will be moderated by Ms. Deshan Sering, the United Nations Environment Programme's Regional Director and Representative for Asia and the Pacific. So I now would like to hand the floor over to you, Ms. Sering.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. A very warm welcome to everyone joining us here in Bangkok and from across the world. As you just heard, climate exposed to unhealthy levels of air pollution. Here in Asia Pacific, we estimate about 4 billion people, that is 92% of the region's population, are exposed to air pollution levels that are a significant risk to their health. Everyone is affected, vulnerable amongst us, children, elderly, women, people living in poverty. So this places an additional economic burden. We estimate this to be about 2% of GDP, and we spend 7% of annual healthcare spending on air pollution-related illnesses. Air pollutants also contribute directly to the climate crises. It negatively affects the environment, ecosystems, and it really affects the region's ability to respond to the Sustainable Development Agenda. But our region is also home to many solutions that can help beat air pollution, save lives, and protect our planet. This regional conversation will discuss pathways to accelerate clean air action in Asia Pacific. It is now my pleasure to invite Ibu Armida Salcia Alice Jabana, Under-Secretary General of the United Nations, Executive Secretary of the Economic Social Commission for Asia Pacific, to share her views on the current state of air quality in the region. Ibu Armida, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Deshan. Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome and good afternoon to the third event of our regional conversation series on Building Back Better. Today's regional conversation is about air pollution in Asia Pacific on the commemoration of the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. So this is a very, very important and urgent topic in these extraordinary times. As highlighted by former Secretary General of United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, I'm very delighted that Asia Pacific member states, all stakeholders are joining at this regional conversation and at this first commemoration of the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. So as also one of the co-hosts, I would like first of all to express our sincerest appreciation to His Excellency Ambassador Lee Wook-heon for co-hosting this event, as well as to Minister Mr. Malik Amin Aslam, as well as colleague speakers, Satya Tripathi from UNEP, from the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for joining this conversation. I also would like to appreciate the participation of Excellencies, ambassadors, and representatives from member states for sharing their insights and best practices at the national level, as well initiative at the regional, sub-regional level that their countries championing at a later stage. Again, may I start my remarks by again reminding all of us, yeah, on the urgency of air pollution, and second on the sources of air pollution, to give all of us a better idea of the sources of air pollution. Third, some historical perspective on the regional as well as sub-regional initiative, especially in our region, because several initiatives, yeah, have been ongoing since the past few decades. And last is on the priority areas for further work and collaboration. First, on the urgency of the issue of air pollution, I think several earlier speakers already alluded, as well as the video clip, yeah, already showed the very situation pertains, again, if I may, I would like to highlight, yeah, especially for our region in Asia Pacific. One of the data source shows the latest one, 99 out of 100. Yeah, so 99 out of 100, so almost all actually. The most polluted cities of the world are in our region, in Asia Pacific. Yeah, comprises of cities especially in South Asia, in Northeast Asia, as well as in Southeast Asia, where of course we are in Southeast Asia. Yeah. And again, the majority are South Asia, as well as in Northeast Asia, including several cities in Southeast Asia. Their level of air pollution are increasing. Health impact, of course, we know that from WHO data, more than 90% of the region's population is exposed to levels of air pollution that pose significant risks, yeah, to their health. Vast populations across the region are at risk from air pollution, as well as, again, this situation being exacerbated, yeah, because no systematic and far enough, yeah, action have been addressed to the problem. Huge impact on health, human health and environment, and the situation or problem, again, yeah, I would like to reiterate, has not been sufficiently been addressed. So without serious action now to clean our skies and to reduce the risk of further air pollution, we risk losing many of the development gains we've seen in the region over recent decades, and definitely regressing against SDG, namely SDG 3 on health, more specifically SDG 3.9, as well as SDG 11 on cities, and certainly SDG 13 on climate action. Yes, so therefore, definitely we will not be able to achieve the 2030 agenda again if these issues are not addressed. Second, on the sources, actually the video clip that we saw earlier already showed the sources of this air pollution. Definitely because of economic activities, rising population, the combination of both consumption and production way or methods, especially due to the use of fossil fuel. So the pollution or air pollution has been increasing dramatically in our region. Several of the pollutants, just to name quickly, some of these are, as we know, particulate matter, PM 2.5, for example, sulfur dioxide, and then, including carbon monoxide and so on and so forth, and many other toxic elements. These comprises the major primary air pollutants, which again emanate from several sources to include fossil fuels, coal, oil, gas, depending on where it emanates, including transportation sector, industry, household, especially unhealthy cooking, heating. And then there is also the sources from the agriculture sector, especially agriculture crop residues, solid waste, as well as forest fires. So these are the typology or typologies of air pollution. And definitely if we see, again, it's not available here, but if we see it varies across our vast region. The causes of air pollution in some areas, region, or country, for example, may come from heating needs sources in the winter. In other parts, may come from vehicle emission in dense cities, or from the production of fossil fuel-based energy, to meet the heating requirements, industry, and so on and so forth. While sources may differ across the countries in our region, the impact would be the same on people, on the citizens, and the urgency to act is definitely common, whether from biomass burning, vehicle use, power generation, industrial activities, forest fire. We definitely must take the necessary actions to stop pollutants from ruining our air. Third part, may I take you back a little while to the several initiatives that have been ongoing actually, especially in our region, sub-region. If from my notes here, several already. If I may just to quickly refresh all of us again in several of these initiatives. One is the Malay Declaration on Control and Prevention of Air Pollution and its likely transboundary effects for South Asia, an intergovernmental network established in April 1998. So it's already more than 20 years. This was the first regional agreement of its kind, not only in the South Asia, but also in developing world. And the declaration emphasizes the need for countries to carry forward or initiate studies and programs on air pollution in each country of South Asia. Yes, so that's the Malay Declaration. Second is the Asset Deposition Monitoring Network in East Asia, established January 2001. It is an intergovernmental network operating since 2001 to address asset deposition and related air pollution issues in East Asia and promoting regional cooperation among participating countries. So 13 countries are members. And then for ASEAN, which is the Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution of the Association of Southeast Asian Nation, or ASEAN. As you know, the objective is to prevent and monitor transboundary haze pollution as a result of land and or forest fires. Yeah, we know that this is a huge problem, yeah, until several years back. And then the Northeast Asian Clean Air Partnership, established 2018, which was proposed as a voluntary program under NASPAC. This is comprises of countries in the Northeast sub-region, which is again the parent, yeah, agreement is a comprehensive intergovernmental cooperation framework addressing environmental challenges in Northeast Asia. So with all that background in mind, that of course the two most recent initiatives, one is regional, the SCAP resolution, SCAP 75/4, on strengthening regional cooperation to tackle air pollution challenges in Asia Pacific, and the recent GA resolution last year on International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. Again, the actions and initiatives being promoted, including the urgent need to raise public awareness at all levels. So this is very important because without public awareness, without understanding at all levels, then it's very difficult, yeah, to promote and facilitate actions to improve air quality. Second is on the need for more technical and capacity building support, yeah, for the development of policies on mitigation of air pollution. And of course, with that, then third, member states will be able to strengthen their efforts to foster sustainable and environmentally sound development policies towards sustainable development and cooperation, including in the area of how to mitigate, yeah, to combat air pollution. And fourth, the fourth element is to enhance collaboration, cooperation with regional and sub-regional programs on air pollution, relevant UN bodies and so on, including colleagues, our colleagues in WHO, UNEP, multilateral, bilateral institution. Yeah. And last, yeah, if I may, my last point is priority areas going forward for further work and collaboration. If I may, just again in view, yeah, of all the issues, challenges that we pose on how to tackle air pollution and the initiatives that are already there. If I may, then the focus would be on first to create a clear pathway towards decarbonization by raising ambitions on climate action through NDCs. That is at the national level, including accelerated end or rapid end to fossil fuel subsidies, as well as no new investment in coal. Second, to transform toward energy efficient and climate neutral infrastructure and transport. And third priority would be to invest in building resilience to climate-induced disaster and other shocks that continually undermine progress. So within this cluster would be the forest fire, yeah, the peatland and forest fire that is still a challenge in our region as well as in other parts of the world. So with that, I'm very much looking forward to your deliberation, reflection, and thoughts on these areas and also issues that we can work and collaborate further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Armida, for helping frame our discussion this afternoon. You provided a historical background. You talked about the intergovernmental frameworks from Mali to the ENET, to the ASEAN Haze Agreement, to NEARCAP, to the SCAP and the General Assembly resolutions. And you've also talked about the causes, the sources, and you've given us a very clear pathway. You've talked about ambitious nationally determined contributions, ending fossil fuel subsidy, no new investment in coal, and to build resilience. With this, we're very fortunate to be joined by an esteemed group of high-level panelists. This panel will be structured around a set of questions addressed to each speaker. You will have an opportunity to pose questions to the panelists at the latter end of the program. Ibu Armeda talked about most of the polluted cities, 99% being in the Asia-Pacific region. When we look at air pollution levels in March and April this year compared to previous years, due to the COVID-19 related restriction measures, we saw an estimated drop in air pollution. In Pakistan, there was about 65% drop in movement trends during the lockdown period, contributing to a reduction in air pollution. But early studies also suggest that air pollution put people further at risks during the pandemic, giving us yet another reason to urgently improve air quality. So, Your Excellency, Mr. Malik Amin Aslam, how can we sustain these air quality gains as we transition towards recovery? Your Excellency, the floor is open. And while we wait for His Excellency Minister Malik Amin Aslam, this will be followed up also by Mr. Piers O'Rose, who will also share his thoughts on what is needed to ensure a sustainable recovery that builds a resilient and inclusive Asia Pacific. So Minister Aslam, please.
Yes, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first of all thank the UNESCAP and UNEP for having this very important discussion and for the celebration for the uh, clean air for the Blue Skies Day that we're having right now. As the world comes out of the COVID crisis, we have learned a number of very important lessons. The first, of course, is the interconnect that we all have with each other, which is inescapable. And that has been reinforced during this crisis. And we can live still in a world with blue skies and clean breath. Firstly, you could, there was a very strong linkage between transport and clean air. Uh, but we also learned that this is a problem which is reversible, because as the world went into lockdowns, and especially in Pakistan, we learned this lesson. We realized that this is still a reversible problem. The high levels of air pollution can be reversed, and they can be reversed very quickly, because within the first week and 10 days of lockdown, the air pollution levels, as you rightly said, drastically dropped. So this is the silver lining of this whole crisis. And I think that for air pollution, which is really a silent killer for countries like Pakistan, because it is affecting now not only our economy, 9% of our GDP is now affected by environmental degradation, and half of that is due to air pollution alone. It is causing a number of deaths, 135,000 deaths every year because of air pollution. So, as I said, this crisis was really a wake-up call, and also had a silver lining that it gave us a lesson that this is a reversible problem. This is a problem that can be tackled if we get the right political will together. Now, within the COVID crisis, Pakistan announced what is called the green stimulus. This has got basically two main objectives: that we want to protect nature, because we want nature to protect us. And the second part is that we want to do it and create green jobs. Further, we divided it into three parts. The first and the most important one is the plantation of trees. We have a 10 billion tree plantation project ongoing, and we gave it a further trigger during the COVID crisis so that it could start generating a number of nature jobs. And we managed to do 84,000 jobs, green jobs, within the COVID crisis for people who were out of jobs, were traveling from urban to rural areas. So we got them to start planting trees, setting up nurseries, engaging with the forest fires to make sure that forest fires are tackled properly in the areas. The second part that we announced called the Protected Areas Initiative. This also comes under the Green Stimulus. This Protected Area Initiative is aimed at enhancing our coverage of natural national parks, which is about 12% of land area right now. We want to take it to 15%.
Mr. Malik, I think you accidentally muted yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. The third part of this green stimulus is called the Clean Green Initiative, which tackles the issue of waste, which is also one of the main sources for air pollution. Because when you start burning waste in the open, it creates one of the main drivers for air pollution. So this green stimulus was thought of and announced by our Prime Minister Imran Khan during the COVID crisis. So it just shows that even in a time of great stress and threat for the economy, we managed to look at great stress and threat for the back green, and to also start tackling the air pollution problem in a more sustainable manner. In addition to this, we also made two very big announcements. Our electric vehicle policy, which was being discussed for the last several months, got finalized through cabinet and announced. So, and we are targeting 30% shift towards EV by 2030. Linked with that, we had also announced during the smog season of last year that we want to increase the quality of our fuel. And we did that announcement, got that announcement implemented during the COVID season, in which we jumped from Euro 2 to Euro 5. So that was a big jump for the fuel quality to happen. And it is, it should be bringing our air pollution levels down by 10 times in areas where this fuel is used. So this whole canvas was laid out with the objective of not only coming out of the COVID crisis in a green manner, but also to build back in a green possible manner. In addition to all these objectives, the other process that we have going on in parallel to this is called the Pakistan Green Development Program, which is setting up monitoring stations for air pollution all over the country, and especially in Lahore, which is which was the epicenter of air pollution for us over the last 2-3 years. So it would be, we have realized that you cannot manage the problem unless you can monitor it properly and you can measure it properly. And for that, we are setting up these whole stations. But I would like to say at the end that one thing that is really important, which the Executive Secretary, Honorable Executive Secretary pointed out, was the regional cooperation part. I think it is essential for issues such as crop residue burning to have regional cooperation, to have regional data sharing, especially for countries who are linked with each other through borders. And the Mali Declaration for South Asia is the declaration that we all have. Unfortunately, it is not being implemented. So I think we need to learn from the Asian regional cooperation and use it for the South Asian region and under the Mali Declaration to have regional cooperation on air pollution, because it does not recognize man-made borders, especially for crop residue burning, where you realize that depending on the wind direction, we could get a lot of air pollution from our neighbors who are burning crops. So this, I think, regional cooperation is essential as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and also for the very positive message that air pollution is reversible, and the silver lining is that you're using the green stimulus to look at addressing air pollution. May I invite Mr. Pierce Oroz to share his thoughts on a sustainable recovery that includes a resilient and inclusive Asia-Pacific. Mr. Oroz, please. I think while we wait for Mr. Oroz to join us, there are many elements when we talked about, the electric vehicle policies, the fuel quality standards, looking at data, looking at monitoring, looking at measurements, looking at frameworks. So we're hearing that we do understand the causes, the sources of emissions, but we're now starting to think of how do we take this forward in terms of the regional cooperation. I will move now, while we wait for Mr. Rosa, Minister Aslam also talked about forest fires, burning of agricultural residues. He talked about waste as major contributors of air pollution in the region. Many parts of Asia engulfed in hazardous levels of air pollution from forest fire and open burning. This year in Southeast Asia, we expect less. And in 2019, we expect less severe fires due to milder dry season and air pollution episodes. But we know that even though we're going to have less severe fires, any pressure on public health due to the pandemic. So in South Asia, Minister Aslam talked about open burning of crop residues, waste contribution to significantly reduce air pollution. So maybe I will go back to Mr. Malik Amin Aslam to talk about really looking at crop residues, and I will come back to Mr. Oros later. Please. Oh, well, maybe I start with Mr. Oros. Please, Mr. Oros. Sorry.
Thank you so much to SCAP and to UNEP for including sustainable energy for all, and a very warm greetings from Vienna, Austria. My compliments to the Clean Air, the first International Clean Air Day, and how appropriate for us, from our perspective, to have former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon at the opening, because Ban Ki-moon was very much the father of sustainable energy for all. He created this as a UN initiative under his mandate. And the brilliance of Ban Ki-moon was that he identified sustainable energy as the golden thread for development. And what does this mean? This means essentially that can be achieved without sustainable energy. Therefore, sustainable energy is the golden thread, not only for SDGs, but certainly for the response, the economic response, the green recovery that was mentioned by our colleague from Pakistan that we face currently. We have then the opportunity to recover better with sustainable energy by prioritizing certain responses that make sense to the economic recovery today, but also make sense to the economic development of the future. And let me paint a picture very quickly for you, which is extremely relevant for Asia. These are SCAP numbers now. In 2019, the urban population in Asia was estimated to be 2.3 billion people. By 2030, we're expecting to have 500 million people more inhabiting cities in Asia. And between now and 2050, that figure will increase more than 1 billion people. Imagine what our cities will look like in 2030 to happen with sustainable energy between now and then. And we have a very powerful picture of how impactful the use of sustainable energy, the use of energy efficiency, for example, when we build our cities or when we retrofit our buildings can become. We know that 10 million yields 2 to 2.5 times the number of jobs as that same investment in fossil fuels. So this is a clear opportunity for our economies to start looking for how to mainstream sustainable energy in our recovery processes. But we also need to start focusing on industrial processes, making their processes much more energy efficient, as well as our transportation infrastructure to become much more energy efficient and reflect the 21st century solutions that are needed. There are already many examples in Asian cities, digital divide, and leapfrog public transportation onto a more sustainable pathway. These need to be encouraged and moved forward. My final point at this moment has to do with integrating sustainable energy into our responses, because it not only helps us to recover better, it can help us sustain our economic growth over the long term, and for what we're talking about today, will help us deliver on the demands of citizens for cleaner air and a healthy environment, especially in urban contexts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rose. If I may turn to Mr. Satya Tripathi, and we'd already heard about air pollution from forest fires and open burning. And we'd already talked about the importance of regional cooperation because of the transboundary nature of air pollution. So if you could focus on how do we couple domestic efforts with regional cooperation, and what is necessary really to move forward in building on the intergovernmental mechanisms and strengthening regional cooperation. Mr. Satya Tripathi, you have the floor.
Greetings, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Mr. Tripathi, very clearly. And we see you very well.
Thank you, Dachen. Excellencies, Ibu Armida, the ladies and gentlemen, it's my proud privilege to join you and this August as we have been a close partner of among member states to agree on the International Day for Clean Air for Blue Skies, and also we'll be having a celebration later today at the UN headquarters, and we are really grateful for the leadership of the Republic of Korea in championing this very important cause. So many esteemed speakers have already spoken about why it is so important. We know that about 7 million people die every year from causes directly attributable to air pollution, and closer couldn't be graver and bigger. In Southeast Asia, we have the forest fires raging on a regular basis. I remember when I served in Indonesia as the executive head of the UN Office for Red Plus Coordination, the president there, His Excellency Pak Jokowi, spoke once and mentioned that, it can't be that we are on fire for more than 2 decades and we can't find a solution in trying to identify systemic issues and plugging those holes, because the problems won't go away without addressing them in a holistic. His Excellency, the Minister from Pakistan, was speaking just a while earlier. One of the biggest tragedies in North India, or that part of the subcontinent, is that every year, without fail, during winter, we see massive amounts of crop residue burning, despite best efforts from governments in the region, because piecemeal approaches do not work. We have to find systemic solutions to system scale problems. And now one of the solutions that I have noted with great admiration that has been done in India is the Ujjwala scheme, where they have managed to big challenges. The first challenge is what the Secretary General calls upon member states to deal with the scourge of fuel subsidies. While they may be important, especially in terms of the vulnerable and the marginalized communities, but it is also important to notice that you cannot wish fossil fuels away when, as a community of nations, we provide in excess of $5 trillion every year in fossil fuel subsidies. It is simply not possible then to wish away fossil fuel subsidies, even though we definitely understand now the enormity of the damage they inflict on people and the planet. And the second was to respect women for what they do for communities, for their families, and for the society at large, which then brings about have received these clean cooking stoves and liquefied petroleum gas cylinders. And even during COVID-19, as part of the recovery package, they were provided with free cylinders as well. One cannot overemphasize the two things, the two major benefits that come out of it. The first, of course, relates to women's safety, that they don't have to go around in unsafe times to unsafe places trying to pick up firewood from forests, and more importantly, thousands of people every year in India alone. And also, that are enormous. The solutions that are being offered by different countries is absolutely noteworthy and praiseworthy. I also want to point out that we need to look at forests from the perspective of nature's stocks and flows, not just an extractive resource that we can keep extracting without paying a heavy price for destroying our forests. Just for example, the destroying of the forest habitat resurface. And since 1990, 420 million hectares of forest, equal to 3 times the size of wildlife trade has become the fourth largest illegal trade crime in the world. We also need to remind ourselves that half of the global GDP depends on nature, and much of it comes from the forests that are still standing, and we need to keep them. Our oceans and forests sustain billions, provide 86 million green jobs, and the Honorable Minister of Pakistan just mentioned how many green jobs they have managed to create even during the COVID-19 crisis. So, in summary, it is extremely important that we segue to climate smart and sustainable agriculture, focusing on integrated fire management to support and further and reinforce the reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation national strategies, RED Plus, and of course, ecosystems restoration, such as replanting forests and rewetting peatlands and remediating degraded pastoral lands. The UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration starts on the 1st of January next year. And that again, I'm much grateful to the UN General Assembly for bringing that about, which will bring focus back on ecosystem restoration. And last but not the least, improving data availability, quality, and access. Indonesia has done great work in identifying hotspots and monitoring them aggressively, and that has certainly helped in managing the raging forest fires that affect the people of Indonesia almost every few years. With our partners, UNEP is working on the World Environment Situation Room to provide relevant and timely data for evidence-based decision making. And the platform already includes information on biodiversity, pollution, air quality, disaster risk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satya Tripathi. And may I now give Minister Aslam sort of an opportunity maybe to talk about regional cooperation, also the idea that we have a lot of piecemeal approaches, but we might need, for a system scale challenge, we might need a more ambitious regional approach. Minister Aslam, please. So I don't see Minister Aslam, but we've had a panelist that's really, Minister Aslam, please, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. And barring the problems with the Wi-Fi, I really have enjoyed the panel discussions so far. I just wanted to make the point that you asked about regional cooperation, and I think this is absolutely essential because we realized in Pakistan that we could control a number of aspects. 40% of our air pollution problem was due to transport, and I think that is the part that really the COVID era also taught us is something which is hampered down. But there is a part of the whole equation in terms of the sources which relates to crop residues, which are honorable. The northern part of India and the adjoining part of problem is it is triggered by the climate change effects which are taking place, which are reduced the turnover time between between two crops for the farmer. So this turnover time, where previously it used to be around 20 days, has been now reduced. And the quick fix for the farmer is to quickly burn the, trying a lot to work with zero tillage options, so that instead of burning field and the planting of the next crop also happens along with it. We've also tried to enforce it through, and it has been to clamp down 70% on our part of the border. Then cross-border, we still have the problem, which is which is not going away. And last year we had satellite monitoring of the air pollution, and then linking it with the air directional flows, and we realized that if we could make our crop residue burning to go down to zero, we would still have a problem, because with the wrong direction of the air, we could still get from across the border a lot of the crop residue smoke coming in. So I think this is where the regional cooperation is absolutely essential, because we're talking about human lives, we're talking about the survival of breathable air in the whole area. And when the air direction turns, as I said, it does not recognize the man-made border. So I think we have a framework in the Malé Declaration in South Asia. We also have a success story in the ASEAN cooperation that happened in the Haze countries, which has been very quite successful for forest fires. So I think we platform. I think that I believe is absolutely essential. And it
Mr. Satya Tripathi, if I may request you to speak on how we can facilitate regional cooperation on air pollution, please, sir.
Thank you, Dechen, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for highlighting that importance and significance of regional cooperation, because the air knows no boundaries. And I was recently speaking at an event on water issues, and it was significant to note there that 154 countries around the world share water courses, whether they're static or dynamic water bodies. 154 countries around the world share them. So like water, air is also a natural resource that knows no boundaries. And we can ignore that fact only at our own peril. And while national efforts and national approaches are significantly important in dealing with problems at a national level, but they by themselves are not going to be enough to solve these massive problems that humanity confronts. And so my message is that air pollution is a shared responsibility, and by nature, they transcend city, provincial, or national borders, and they come from multiple sources. For example, a 2019 assessment conducted for India by the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis and the Council on Energy, Environment and Water, CEW, they found that in many states, emission sources outside of the immediate jurisdiction contribute to the largest share of PM 2.5. This further reinforces what the Honorable Minister was pointing out just now, whether these are national borders or subnational boundaries within national borders. The argument remains valid, and we need to have broader approaches to managing air quality effectively, and not just national, urban, and rural authorities, but also regionally. These collaborative platforms need to work more effectively, employing a multi-sector and multi-pollutant approach. Now, of course, we on our side as UNEP, we try our best to support national authorities and other stakeholders to the best of our abilities, but much of it ultimately remains an effort that has to be led at the local level or at the national level by the governments that are responsible for their people. And in that, building a broad coalition of stakeholders at a scale consistent with the magnitude of the problem is extremely important. Allow me to share some examples of positive achievements of multinational intergovernmental air pollution reduction approaches. For example, the multinational intergovernmental air pollution approach, the UNECE, the Convention on Long-Range Transboundary Air Pollution, the first coordinated approach between countries to address their common and shared air pollution problems. Asia Pacific has also seen a lot of scientific cooperation. For example, the Acid Deposition Monitoring Network in East Asia has been building capacity and cooperation on monitoring across East and Southeast Asia. For 2 decades, this network has produced robust and credible data of the state of acid deposition in 13 East Asian countries. ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution has been developed to limit the air pollution from forest fires in Southeast Asia. And of course, the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies that we are celebrating today presents a tremendous opportunity to build a global community for clean air by encouraging action at the national, region, and international levels. And UNEP is more than willing and ready to be a partner for all stakeholders, including, of course, member states, in driving this agenda forward. Thank you, Dechen.
I thank you very much, Mr. Satya Tripathi. And we've talked about shared responsibility. I wanted to thank Ibu Armida for her leadership. I wanted to thank all the panelists for their leadership and their commitment, your valuable insight on how we can accelerate action on clean air in the region. Colleagues, there will be an opportunity for you to pose questions to our esteemed panelists at the latter part of the program. I now hand over to the Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Pachari Raksa Wong. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much to Ms. Zering for moderating that insightful panel discussion. Once again, thank you very much, Ms. Zering, for moderating that insightful panel discussion. And once again, thank you to our esteemed panelists for sharing with us best practices, projects, and also policies that have seen successful results, and also agreeing there that we must commit to regional cooperation and work towards sustainability as the way forward. Now, for those of you joining us online, don't leave us just yet, as our panelists will soon be answering the questions you've submitted online on ESCAP's YouTube channel. So if you haven't submitted a question or comment, you will still have time, and we do really encourage participation. Now, we've heard a lot today about the impact of air quality on human health. Our next speaker can give further insight into this. I'd like now to give the floor to Dr. Pem Namgyal, the World Health Organization's Director of Program Management in the Southeast Asia Regional Office. He will be providing a statement on behalf of the WHO's Southeast Asia Regional Director, Dr. Pem Namgyal.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you very clearly, Doctor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for the opportunity given to the WHO Southeast Asia Regional Office to speak at this important forum. Dr. Poonam Khetrapal Singh, the Regional Director, WHO Southeast Asia Region, would have very much liked to be here with you. Unfortunately, due to a prior commitment, she is unable to do so. Therefore, it is my pleasure and privilege to speak on her behalf. It was amazing how rapidly the quality of air improved after a few months of lockdown, and to be able to appreciate the pleasures of blue skies and the sudden freshness all around. Of course, no one can wish for a pandemic to afflict humankind to be able to enjoy the pleasures of a cleaner air and a more wholesome environment. But what this makes clear is that air pollution is largely a consequence of human activity, and that it can be reversed and reverse quickly. Air pollution is a very serious threat to human health. It is the world's single most important environmental health risk factor, contributing to 1 in 9 of all premature death. And air pollution is the second largest factor for non-communicable diseases, which is recognized even by the United Nations General Assembly. In the WHO Southeast Asia region, more than half of the population continue to use smoky, polluting stoves and fuels inside their homes for cooking due to lack of access to affordable, reliable, and clean sources of energy. This aspect alone accounts for half of all the total burden of diseases from air pollution. And in the Asia-Pacific region, where almost 60% of the world's population live, many face some of the highest exposures to ambient air pollution on a daily and on long-term basis. Such exposures come from a variety of settings, such as industrial sectors, transportation, unsustainable waste management, poor agricultural practices. More than 9 out of 10 people in the region breathe polluted air that is well above WHO air quality guidelines. In some areas and in some urban settings, it is not uncommon for exposures to be in excess of 10-fold above the recommended safe limits. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, WHO welcomes the opportunity to join this first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, and in close collaboration with other UN partners, we will strive not only to enhance our efforts at advocating for clean air, but also together to search for sustainable multi-sector solutions and approaches. The first International Day comes at a time when the world is facing an unprecedented challenge due to the coronavirus pandemic. By this morning, across the world, more than 75 million cases of COVID have been reported, with more than 891,000 lives lost. The pandemic has clearly brought to the fore the centrality of health in the economic well-being of nations and the importance of good health as the necessary prerequisite for the overall development of nations. My apologies, I think I forgot to switch on the video. What is more, the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed a number of weaknesses in our health systems because the strain of emergency response to this pandemic has negatively affected the ability of our health system to continue to provide the level of essential services while at the same time fighting COVID-19. And the economic fallout of the restrictive measures that countries have to put in to fight the pandemic is immense for all countries. But we can build back and build back better. As countries begin their recoveries from the pandemic, we cannot go back to the same ways as before. WHO is advocating for a healthy and green recovery and has set out 6 priority areas of focus to achieve this. First, to protect and preserve nature itself. Healthy human societies rely on natural environment for clean air, clean water, and safe food to sustain civilizations. In the quest for these, we need to ensure that unhealthy human pressures leading to deforestation, unsafe waste management, and unsustainable consumption of wildlife are reduced in favor of more sustainable means of livelihood and human survival. Second, greater investment is needed to strengthen and build resilient health systems that can withstand such shocks and yet continue to be able to provide essential services while responding effectively to new threats. It also means that the elements required for good health, such as water and sanitation and sustainable approaches to waste management, are important to be factored in. Third, enhance access to clean energy. Half the burden of air pollution in the Asia Pacific is attributable to the simple fact that clean energy is not universally available to people in their homes. But in going beyond people's homes, great take-up of renewable energy solutions will also prevent much of the ambient air pollution, which is growing in the region, while also safeguarding against catastrophic climate change. Fourth, to promote healthy, sustainable food systems. Diseases caused by either lack of food or consumption of unhealthy food, high-calorie diets increase vulnerability to other risks such as obesity and diabetes, which are also important risk factors for COVID-19. Fifth, to spare no effort in building healthy, livable cities, creating spaces for safe walking and cycling, prioritizing public health transport, increasing green spaces will undoubtedly help with our recovery from the pandemic, as well as tackling air pollution. And finally, we need to accelerate moves away from fossil fuels that drive both climate change and air pollution through financial and technological innovations. You can count on WHO to continue to work with you in fighting air pollution, and we very much welcome the work being done at the interagency working level to raise our collective ambitions further. Only by being steadfast and consistent in our efforts, we can provide the support needed by our member states to create a healthy, sustainable future for all. Together with the vast network of our health worker community, pardon me, we'll be there on the front lines not only to fight COVID-19, but also to energize and mobilize the community and the supporters of healthy environment and be the leaders in the move towards cleaner, greener, more climate resilient healthcare facilities and in advocating against air pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We just heard from Dr. Pem Namgyal, the World Health Organization's Director of Program Management in the Southeast Asia Regional Office. We highly appreciate your insightful remarks and recommendations. Once again, thank you. And now we go straight into the concise intervention session, whereby we will be hearing from various countries and regional organizations, to be followed with a Q&A session and then wrapping up with the closing remarks. Taking over the floor to facilitate the intervention session, we have the Director of Environment and Development Division of ESCAP, Mr. Stefanos Fotio. He joins us remotely. Mr. Stefanos Fotio, over to you.
Good afternoon, Madam MC. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's a great honor for me to step in this very interesting discussion. A very big thank to the thousands of live attendees in YouTube. Give us some time so we can go through some structured interventions from some countries, and then we will try to answer some of your questions. I would like to first give the floor to Her Excellency Ambassador Rausan Yesbolatova, Ambassador of Kazakhstan in Thailand and Permanent Representative of Kazakhstan in Bangkok. Madam Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for giving me the floor. Excellencies, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, a warm greeting to all. And first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the government of the Republic of Korea for initiated the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Sky and raising public awareness about the importance of tackling the issue of air pollution. The problem of the air pollution is one of the most global problems, and its transparency in its nature. Therefore, we think it's very important to develop the regional and global cooperation in this area. This is why Kazakhstan co-sponsored the SCAP resolution number 75/4, strengthening regional cooperation to tackle air pollution challenges in Asia and the Pacific. At the same time, it's one of the most urgent problems and requires immediate action from every member state. Let me say a few words on how Kazakhstan is working on solving the air pollution challenges at the national levels. The Air KZ mobile application and interactive map launched, which allow to get online information about the air quality not only for cities but also for each locality. As part of the new Environment Code, which should be adopted by the Parliament by the end of the year, it's planned to implement best available technique in the industrial enterprises. We believe this could help to reduce industrial pollution. In accordance with the program of transition to the green economy, Kazakhstan is systematically developing the renewable energy sector, bringing to share of renewable energy in the country's energy balance to 3% percentage in 2020. And it's planned to reach 50 in 2050, taking into account alternative energy. The air pollution is also a very complex issue. It's related to the health, it's related to the climate change, and we are thinking about ways how to solve it. It's also related to the new technologies and renewable energy as well as the economy. While pushing countries to reduce the air pollution, we should bear in mind its possible effect of the measures for the economy of the countries. So we should strike the right balance on that. Therefore, we see it essential to ensure the availability of new technologies and best practices and encourage member states to share them on mutual beneficial basis. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, and thank you for highlighting the need to a green recovery where technology and innovation can help us. I would like to give the floor now to His Excellency, Mr. Timur Armasana, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Mongolia to ESCAP. Ambassador Armasana, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Mongolia applauds the adoption of the resolution to hold the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies by the UNGA last year, and I would like to thank UNESCAP Secretariat and Mr. Lee Wook-heon, Ambassador of the Republic of Korea, for organizing today's event, reminding us about the need to double our efforts to attain clean air everywhere. My country, which is also called as a country of blue skies, is known for its vast steppes, cold and long winters, and nomadic lifestyles. However, for the first decade, air pollution has become an increasingly pressing development challenge for the country. Therefore, our government has committed to take actions to bring the air quality in urban areas back to safe levels, and currently is in the process of implementing a national program for reducing air and environmental pollution from 2017 till 2025. Under this program, Mongolia decreased the level of particulate matter 2.5 in Ulaanbaatar over 50% during last 4 years, particularly by cleaner fuel substitutions. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, multilateral and regional cooperation on air pollution can cover diverse areas, such as sharing experiences, conducting joint scientific studies, providing monitoring and control technology, and building technical institutional capacity for enforcing environmental standards. Such cooperation saves time and cost for all countries and provides benefits for both domestic and regional air quality. Having this in mind, we are working with our partners through the UNESCAP and NIASPEC, which we consider as the important platform for collectively reviewing national, regional, and global environmental processes and sustainable development in the region. NIACAP, an initiative under the Northeast Asian Sub-Regional Program for Environmental Cooperation, NIASPEC, in which Mongolia has been very active since its establishment in 1993, has provided technical assistance, including a project on air pollution reduction. Mongolia is one of the co-sponsors of the last year's resolution adopted by the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific 75/4 on strengthening regional cooperation to tackle air pollution challenges in Asia and the Pacific, is working towards its realization. From its inception, Mongolia has been an active member and supporter of the UN Environmental Breathe Life Initiative, and together with Climate and Clean Air Coalition, is undertaking research activities aimed to integrate actions on air pollution and climate change. Air quality monitoring using a ground-based air quality monitoring networks are mostly concentrated in densely populated cities within national territories. Therefore, my country supports the Pan-Asian Partnership for Geospatial Air Pollution Information, which will enable better use of space applications for monitoring air pollution at the regional level. As a current chair, Mongolia is looking forward to its active participation in the upcoming ESCAP 24th Senior Official Meeting in October, where we hope to operationalize the Northeast Asia Clean Air Partnership, which will further promote science-based and policy-oriented collaboration among members and enhance and further develop information and experience exchange. Our delegation is also closely following and supportive of the activities of the regional initiatives, the long-range transboundary air pollutants in Northeast Asia, and acid deposition monitoring network in East Asia. Finally, while thanking once again the Secretariat and Embassy of the Republic of Korea for organizing this event, in commemoration of the International Day of Clear Air, Blue Skies, we would like to propose that each member country would take turns in the future regional conversation series on the air pollution reduction to provide individual presentations about the progress made and lessons learned on this topic. And I would like to propose that Mongolia give a presentation in the next year's event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and thank you for your commitment to communicate more on the work that Mongolia is doing and also on opportunities for regional cooperation. Let me step in here, Ambassador, and say that this December, also 3 months from now, on 9 and 10 of December, we will have the ESCAP Committee on Environment and Development, and I believe this will give another opportunity to you and, of course, all member states of ESCAP to present their activities in this very important area. I will now give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Evren Dagdelen Akgün, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary and Permanent Representative of Turkey to ESCAP. Madam Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I would like to, wish a good afternoon to all the excellencies and distinguished participants and express our appreciation for the initiative on the International Day of Clean Air and Blue Skies as a country that has strongly supported action to counter air pollution. Obviously, in today's world, all issues related to air quality need to be taken up at the global level. This morning we have, or this afternoon, we have heard some alarming figures, and we have seen just how multilateral, multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary, and multi-layered the problem is. 9 out of 10 children today are not breathing clean air, and 92% of the world's population is exposed to dangerously polluted air. We as Turkey attach great importance to environment and air quality, obviously, in our energy, transport, industrial policies. Another global challenge, namely COVID-19, has had a collateral effect. I would like to touch on the relationship that has played out in this respect. The air quality has obviously improved globally because of the lockdown measures, including industrial production and national level curfews. These changes regarding air quality were recorded in Turkey as well as the disease reached our country and rigorous countermeasures were adopted. The phenomenon has shown to the degree which the air pollution has reached, as well as how a recovery is possible, so yes, reversibility. Our Ministry of Environment and Urbanization is now pressing ahead with air quality management measures even more rigorously. Air quality measurement results constitute an indicator for air quality improvement. However, they are not sufficient for the calculation of the quantitative effects, since air quality is integrated into many other factors, including transport of the pollutants. In Turkey, the presence of COVID-19 was confirmed in March 2020, and lockdown measures began to be strictly implemented already beginning end of April. March and April. But during these months, the residential heating demand had already decreased. So therefore, it's not certain that the air quality improvement assessment reflected also this effect. Within this framework, the Ministry of Environment has been employing a web-based GIS software tool named Air Emission Management Portal, AEM, since 2017. AEM portal includes emission calculations, spatial temporal distribution, and air quality remodeling modules. This portal has been used to quantify the effect of the COVID-19 on the air quality for selected periods of 25th of March to 25th of April, when a curfew was in vigor in metropolitan municipalities. As a first step, emission calculations have been made regarding the COVID-19 lockdown scenario for road transport and compared data with usual times. An 80% decrease was observed, particularly for NOx emissions, which are the major pollutant of combustions as related to road transport. The lockdown scenario will proceed on an air quality modeling, which aims at calculating total quantitative effect of the pandemic on the air. The City Air project, funded by the European Union and Turkey, aims at institutional capacity building for combating air pollution and restoring air quality. The project includes preparation of 31 local clean air action plans consisting of information on current air quality status, air pollutants emission inventory, emission reduction scenarios and their impact on the air quality, as well as emission reduction roadmap. The project is linked to the implementation of the European Union environmental acquis within the scope of environmental quality. Raising public awareness on air quality is an important component of this project. Various online activities have been planned for 7th of September, and celebrations and online events were held targeting large numbers of public. Within this context, a special session for clean air was held with the chairmanship of Deputy Minister for Environment and Urbanization and the participation of the Director of UNEP European Office, Head of EU Delegation, and members of the Ministry of Health Science Committee, as well as provincial directorates of environment from 81 provinces. Through these events, awareness raising for individuals, society, and companies from all levels on the significance of clean air for health, productivity, economy, and environment were targeted. So air quality and clean air are obviously, improving air quality is obviously a major component of fighting climate change and reaching global sustainable development goals. So with these thoughts, I leave it at this and highlight one more time the importance of multilateralism in fighting air pollution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, for closing your statement with the focus on multilateralism and how this could be a game changer on tackling air pollution. I would like now to give the floor to Mr. Olivier Richard, Charge d'Affaires at the French Embassy in Thailand. Mr. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Stefanos. Dear speaker, dear guest, first of all, thank you very much for this event and to all the stakeholders who made this event possible. I would like to start with two remarks. The first remark is, I think that now health is clearly the priority number one for everybody. And I think that now everybody will agree upon the fact that there will be no sustainable development without good air quality. And this is the outcome of this COVID outbreak. The second point is that the Asia-Pacific region is just in the center of the French strategy in the Indo-Pacific, a strategy which has been disclosed by President Macron 2 years ago now. And this strategy is built on the idea of multilateralism, international cooperation, and sustainable development. That's the reason why France is very keen on sharing its expertise within the framework, the UN framework in Bangkok, through systematic research, the leveraging of political will, and capacity building. Over the past 2 years, the French embassy in Bangkok has been organizing several events, local and regional events, with different stakeholders, local stakeholders, Thai stakeholders like Chulalongkorn University, and with French experts based in the area. These experts are from the French Research Institute for Sustainable Development, IRD, and the French National Center of Scientific Research, CNRS, to name a few, which are based in Southeast Asia. We are very excited now at the French Embassy because we've decided with UNESCAP to build up a new partnership with UNESCAP to address not only air pollution, air quality, but also biodiversity, health, and climate change. That's the reason why the French Embassy will be fully involved in the UNESCAP executing training to be held at the end of this year, and we will also support side events on emerging pollutants such as black carbon and ozone during the Asian Pacific Forum for Sustainable Development next March. During these events, we will mobilize the expertise of Air Paris, which is an independent French air quality network, which has been informing French people during the COVID outbreak about air quality. And we will try to share the experience of Air Paris to contribute to improve resilience in case of new pandemics. I'm confident that such initiatives, and I hope that the side events we will organize with UNESCAP will help to set up a systemic response based on cooperation to create the condition for a more sustainable future. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard, and thank you very much for your first message that there cannot be sustainable development without clean air. I think this is a very strong message, and we all need to embrace it. I will give the floor now to Ms. Purnima Gurnasekera, Head of Chancery from Sri Lanka. Ms. Purnima, the floor is yours. I think we have lost Ms. Purnima, and I understand that there's a request from the delegation of Timor-Leste to talk. So I see Timor-Leste, Ms. Elisa da Silva requesting the floor. Can we give, please, the floor to Ms. Timor-Leste? Ms. Elisa, we can see and hear you. Please go on.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanos. Good afternoon, Excellency, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Let me share Timor-Leste's effort in tackling air pollution. Timor-Leste support all the initiatives taken to address the air pollution, including the resolution adopted by the G8 2019 on the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Sky, as well as CAB Resolution 2019. Timor-Leste also give the importance of an urgent need to always raise public awareness about the issue at all levels. Like many other countries that still struggling tackling air pollution, Timor-Leste is also categorized as moderately unsafe. As reported by WHO, that the most recent data indicated country annual means concentration of PM2.5 is 19 micrograms per cubic meter of air. And the WHO guidelines recommended keeping PM2.5 level to about 10 micrograms per cubic meter. The challenge for Timor-Leste is that Timor-Leste still lack of policy to tackle air pollution. We do understand that for countries to succeed in reducing air pollution, countries should have policy in place, such as policy in transport, urban planning, power generation, and industry, as well as policy for municipal and agriculture and waste management. These are the challenges Timor-Leste is still facing. However, in outdoor and indoor air pollution, the government of Timor-Leste in 2015 has issued to all government ministers banning smoking in public places, including public transportation. Furthermore, the decree law setting out the tobacco control regime was approved by the Council of Ministers and promulgated by the President in November 2015. This is a major step for Timor-Leste to improve the health of the nation, and reducing smoking in public places will contribute to the reducing air pollution and prevent that. In addition to that, in order to mitigate air pollution, Timor-Leste has defined counter targets such as to minimize indoor pollution that being long-term affected women in Timor-Leste. The government is targeting to distribute saving energy cooking stoves to minimum 5,000 households by 2021. By the end of 2021, we'll finalize environmental standards for pollution. Since 2018, the President of Timor-Leste has declared for greening of Timor-Leste by order every citizen to plant minimum 1 tree a year. To echoing the President order, Timor-Leste government every year preparing 1.5 million trees to plant. This action will contribute to normalize Timor-Leste air quality. Although Timor-Leste emission level only 0.003% compared to global emission level, Timor-Leste is strongly committed to greening the country and particularly promoting green development principle. Timor-Leste strategic plan, also targeting by the end of 2030, will shift 50% of power station based on fossil fuel to renewable energy. The current government has been promoting the zero plastic policy to combat banning of plastic waste with potential minimized Timor-Leste air quality. However, again, Timor-Leste faces many challenges in putting policy in place. Therefore, Timor-Leste continue working closely with the Office of WHO, UN Environment, SCAP, and other related stakeholders to enhance our system air quality monitoring, to establish policy on national ambient air quality standard, national air quality policy, air quality registration, and the program. Finally, Timor-Leste continues seeking regional cooperation, bilaterally, multilaterally, to help us improving air quality, sharing of experience, best practice in collecting and utilization of data, and joint research to improve the system, as well as helping each other for better future and clean air for all. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Elisa, for the comprehensive presentation. I see we have also Sri Lanka back. Ms. Kunesekara, can we give the floor to Sri Lanka, please? And I'm asking the delegates to be as brief as possible, as we have a lot of questions from the audience also. Sri Lanka, you have the floor.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, we can hear you, yes. Please go on.
Excellencies, distinguished past participants, it is indeed a pleasure to join the first International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies and make this intervention on behalf of Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's permanent mission to the UNESCAP. As the United Nations marks 75 years, it is timely that the UNESCAP takes this initiative to draw attention to a key issue such as the air pollution and to raise awareness on the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, which falls on 7th September, inviting effective national and regional efforts in addressing ways of promoting cleaner environment for all present and future generations alike. Over the years, Sri Lanka has taken a number of steps to reduce air pollution and improve the quality of air. Sri Lanka formulated the Clean Air 2000 Action Plan in the 1990s, which was revised in 2004 and 2010. Clean Air 2015-2025 Action Plan was launched in 2016 at the 6th National Symposium on Air Quality Management in Sri Lanka. Clean Air Action Plan 2025 includes establishing a national multi-stakeholder platform for formulation and coordination of all air quality improvement and management programs to ensure source identification, quantification, monitoring, and reduction of harmful air pollutants, implementing and strengthening regulatory framework for ensuring effective air quality management, undertaking research and development, creating public awareness, establishing linkages with the regional and global air quality management initiatives, and to ensure adequate financial resources. In order to address climate change and to fulfill the commitments under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Kyoto Protocol, and the Paris Agreement, the Ministry of Environment, as the national focal point, has established a Climate Change Secretariat, the national designated agency for the UNFCCC, and has achieved major milestones, including the formulation of a national climate change policy, preparing the National Adaptation Plan for Climate Change Impact 2016-2025, and submitting nationally determined contributions, which is being revised towards more realistic targets. As part of our contribution to global efforts and galvanizing cooperation, Sri Lanka hosted and launched the UN Global Campaign on Sustainable Nitrogen Management in October 2019, at which Colombo Declaration on Sustainable Nitrogen Management was adopted, aiming to halve the nitrogen waste by 2030, further demonstrating Sri Lanka's alignment with connected global initiatives and contributing towards clean air initiatives by reducing emissions of toxic gases, including nitrogen dioxide. Under the national policy framework, Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor of the government led by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, much importance has been placed to ensure clean air under the Sustainable Environment Policy by controlling air pollution, including lowering carbon emissions and encouraging decarbonization. Sri Lanka wishes to reiterate its commitment towards cleaner oceans, focus on sustainable use of its resources, and rule-based ocean governance to benefit all, giving due consideration for the nexus between oceans and climate change. According to the IQ Air Visuals 2019 World Air Quality Report, Sri Lanka has recorded the cleanest air in South Asia. Several important steps have been taken by Sri Lanka for air quality management, which includes ambient air quality monitoring, vehicular emission control management, which includes mechanisms phasing out of leaded gasoline, banning of two-stroke three-wheelers, green building guidelines, indoor air quality guidelines, and strict regulations for vehicle importation. The recent lockdown situation and the new normal posed by COVID-19 global pandemic has reportedly resulted in a considerable decline in respiratory diseases around the world due to the low emissions, signaling the possibility to take firm action on making reduced air pollution and striving to achieve blue skies. We believe that the ongoing health crisis has brought in an opportunity for the countries in the Asia Pacific to support one another in achieving this global target of having clean air for all. Sri Lanka stands ready to join such collective initiatives and also expects regional collaboration on air quality improvements, especially on addressing transboundary air pollution movements. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gunasekara, and thank you for presenting all these initiatives. We are almost running out of time. I understand we can have a little bit more minutes, and there's a number of questions from the audience. And I would like to ask the two panelists that they have stayed here, my good colleague Satya from UNEP and Glenn from the Sustainable Energy for All. I've tried to summarize two big questions, one for Satya and another for Glenn. Glenn, I will start with you. There's a lot of questions of people asking how we can have clean air and at the same time we can support the development of industry, we can support the development of jobs, we can give incomes to the people. And given that sustainable energy and renewable energy, it's becoming a big industry, would you like to address this question? And I would like also to ask Ms. Gunasekara that you release your microphone now, so you leave the spot. Thank you. So Glenn. I think we lost Glenn. I think Glenn is back. Glenn, could you try to address this question? No, don't release your microphone. Put the mic on and camera on in the middle buttons.
Thank you very much, Stefano.
And
it's really a very important question. And what I'd like to reflect upon is the importance of moving towards a clean energy transition in a way that identifies both technical solutions in terms of sustainable energy, as well as the financing solutions that are necessary, which need to increase in terms of being rapidly available to countries for a clean energy transition, but also reflecting the political economy in each country. This will only make sense if it makes sense to the language of governments. And I'll give you a few examples. In Vietnam, for example, the big concern is energy security, energy reliability for a growing economy. Therefore, a clean energy transition needs to respect those guardrails and needs to reflect how clean energy, how sustainable energy can provide the solutions for a growing economy in Vietnam. The COP26 presidency is currently leading a campaign on clean energy transition with different countries, proposing a milestone, a target of COP26 for commitments that these countries can make on the pathway to their energy transitions. So this is, I think, a very natural milestone for all countries to consider. COP26 presidency certainly is doing its best to convene global partners as well as interact with specific countries in making this happen. So that's the challenge, and that's the way we can confront the challenge right now.
Thank you very much, Glenn. We are indeed going out of time, but I wanted to ask actually if Dr. Pern Namgyal is still in the audience, because there's a question that I wanted to ask him. So in case that you are in the audience, Dr. Penn, could you request the floor, please? Yes. Can you give the floor to to Dr. Penn, please? Because I have a following, and there's a number of questions, Dr. Penn, that they're asking about enforcement. So the question is, what the UN is doing, for example, when the countries do not enforce standards. Should the UN have some global standards and an enforcement mechanism? What should be done for countries that they don't want to follow national strict standards? So I think all these questions about enforcement of either national or even global standards. Could you, in 2 minutes, let us know what's your view and what's the view of WHO in enforcing the standards?
Thank you for that question. I think this is an issue that is being debated currently, especially in the context of COVID outbreak. And the question around is that, if someone, let's say WHO as a standard setting normative function in health, if you set standards, then how does it, or who enforces that? Purely from WHO perspective, WHO as its normative function and standard setting functions for health and related, we set the standards with the best of science and knowledge that is available, and through, of course, a consensus and very much technical evidence-based policy. But WHO issues guidelines. So guidelines are there for countries to follow, and they are issued with the best of interest, in the best interest of the countries and of the world. Now, of course, it is up to each individual countries within their own context, both political as well as economic context, to be able to, or either to implement or not implement. We as WHO, working very closely with ministries of health and through the ministries of health, of course, with the government, the larger government, we encourage and support technically for countries to adapt our guidelines and recommendations so that it fits into national context, yet at the same time it is of the highest standard that is possible. So that is as far as we can do. We do not have enforcement authority, and I think this is same for all UN system and UN agencies. But the best we can do is we can advocate, we bring together global partners, and then we reach out to the highest political level in order to encourage countries. And we will continue to do that, not only educating and raising awareness at the grassroots level, but by trying to reach also to the highest political level so that our recommendations and guidelines can be translated into actions at the country level.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pem. And indeed, to confirm what you said, that no UN agency actually has any enforcement. So thank you very much. You can release your mic now. Dear participants, we have really dozens of questions, and I feel very uncomfortable that we are not able to address these questions and not to take all the interventions from the floor. I would like just to take 1 minute for a small wrap-up from my side before we close this event. I think that the event today demonstrated not only the urgency to act, but the very big interest from countries, from stakeholders, from the civil society on walking the talk of action for air pollution. And it was really delightful to see from all the interventions, from the countries, from the experts, to highlight how important regional cooperation is, on tackling the issue of air pollution. And I think this is a proof that when ESCAP decided to initiate this series of regional dialogues, choosing the air pollution was a choice that it reflected actually the needs of the region. And I want to thank here very much our colleagues from UNEP that joined us and brought together their own initiative, the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, and we managed to work as one UN. I would like from my side to say that looking at and understanding how much is the urgency, but also how much is the kind of wish of the countries to work on this. As I said before, in 3 months from now, on 9 and 10 of December, ESCAP will be organizing the Committee on Environment and Development, which is an intergovernmental meeting of ESCAP. And air pollution is going to be one of the substantive themes and one of the areas that we will be discussing there. So I'm asking all the countries that they have participated, the stakeholders, to join us for the Committee on Environment and Development. From my side, again, a very big thank to the thousands of attendees we had over the YouTube, to all the panelists, to our colleagues in UNEP, and I would like now to give back to our MC, Ms. Pasari, to wrap up the event. Over from me, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you so very much to you, Mr. Fotio, for facilitating the session and also delivering the closing remarks. Once again, I would like to extend our warmest thanks to the panelists, participants, the guests and the audience, both on site and online, for your participation. And I hope this conversation you found was very educational, very stimulating. Hopefully there were plenty of takeaways, and we do hope that you will continue to do your part and help to contribute to cleaner air. And we look forward to seeing you all again next year in 2021 for the second International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. My name is Pachori Raksa Wong, wrapping up my role as Master of Ceremonies. Sawadee ka. And that, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up the live webcast. And before we adjourn the session, I'd like to thank the ESCAP conference management team for the effective servicing of this meeting. I would also like to recognize all those from the Secretariat who worked behind the scenes to make this meeting session a memorable one. I would also like to invite everyone here to the coffee break hosted by His Excellency, the Korean Ambassador. Very kind of you, Your Excellency. And that is just next to the conference room 1. Please remember to socially distance yourselves and wear your mask where possible. And finally, in order to leave the room with proper physical distancing, I would like to request the participants seated towards the last row to exit first, please, and we'll go in that order, just to make sure we continue to physically distance ourselves. The exit is, of course, on the right-hand side, and kindly follow the guidance from conference management staff. Please ensure that you have all your valuables and your belongings with you. And once again, on behalf of the host, I'd like to thank you all so very much, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Enjoy your coffee break. Sawadee ka.